Hi, this is Nick on the 11th of July, and next to the thoughts about our shadow life and how do we move from a shadow life and a shadow calling to our true life and our true calling and expressing ourselves more fully. Now, I shared yesterday my own kind of example of realizing I was living a shadow life when I was a host of other authors and a host for other speakers, and the realization moment that I had, which was actually, if I'm honest, I really want to be the speaker. I really want to be the author. That was my pivotal moment, if you like, of awareness. Now, that was pivotal, and it changed the direction of my life, and it didn't change it overnight. It put me onto a whole new trajectory. It made me realize I was hiding out. It made me realize there was more in me. But there was at least, probably lots of steps, but first step is, or was, I suppose I would call it taking myself more seriously. Really believing that I was somebody who was important. I think I struggled to think I was that important, that I was that significant. So it was saying, you know what, I think maybe I am more significant than I give myself credit for, and maybe what I have to say could be more significant and important to other people than I've given myself credit for. So I suppose step number one of moving out of a shadow calling into a true calling is to take ourselves seriously, which doesn't mean we have to take ourselves heavily, but it means we need to really believe in ourselves a bit more and go, maybe what I have to say matters. Maybe who I am matters more than I've believed. So number one step is to take ourselves more seriously and to take our talents more seriously and our gifts more seriously. But just to say, could also be being very happy and joyful and playful with them. And in fact, it does involve that. And it means taking them seriously, giving them credit, giving them importance and significance. But really then the second thing, which I think we're all dealing with, and I think everyone's dealing with it to a degree, is that the next thing that usually gets triggered is our inner critic. This is no mystery to most of us that are on any kind of personal growth path or creative path or leadership path. Is the biggest thing we're up against is our own inner critic, our own internal resistance to showing up more, to taking ourselves seriously, to believing in ourselves and our own significance. We, to be honest, just tend to kind of belittle ourselves. And for me, that inner critic shows up as that voice of shaming, that voice of who do you think you are, that voice that invalidates us. When I talk about taking ourselves seriously, most of us have a degree of invalidation. And our inner critic is that invalidating voice. Who do you think you are? Who wants to listen to you? What does it matter what you have to say? That kind of voice which most of us can relate to. So when I had that realization that, maybe I do have something to say. Maybe I'm a messenger. I'm not just a supporter of other people's messages, but I'm a messenger too, and I have my own voice and I have my own messages to deliver to the world. As soon as I went, I'm inspired by that idea, my inner critic came in like a ton of bricks and said, all the stuff that I just shared with you. So what I've been dealing with, and I think we're all dealing with, if we make the decision to really want to show up in the world with our true life and our true calling, is we are learning to both handle our inner critic, and the other side of that, the positive side of that, is we're building a new parent for ourselves, I think. Most of us, I say most, excuse me if I'm overgeneralizing, and I think there's a reality to most of us. We're not brought up in households where our creativity, our spirituality, our leadership were really validated and encouraged and seen and acknowledged and championed, if you like. So the journey for most of us is that we're needing to become that inner champion for ourselves. That's certainly been the journey for myself over the last 20 years since I had that kind of moment of realization. Is, I've been, if you like, disinvesting the power I've had in my own inner critic, and I have been investing in my own good parent, my own champion, if you like, the part of me that cheers me on, that takes me seriously, that says, yeah, go for it. You are an amazing person. You do have gifts. You do have talents, and take them as far as you can do. Be curious about what you're capable of. Be curious about the impact that you've had. Don't limit yourself. Let yourself go. Not in a what I would call a grandiose way, but in a truthful way that says, You just don't know what you're capable of. Go find out. Discover. You know, let the world in a way be your playing field to discover who you really are and what you're capable of. Don't assume you can't do things. Find out whether you can do them. So, just to recap here before I finish off, what I'm saying is I think what most of us in my experience are up against, I've certainly been up against it, and when I've worked with, you know, hundreds of people that I've worked with one-to-one over the years and at talks and workshops and responses to all the books that I've written is, you know, most of us are dealing with our own inner critic. That's what put us in the shadows in the first place, and if we want to come out the shadows, that's what all of us are, or most of us are dealing with. So it's about shrinking our inner critic. And one of the ways that we shrink our inner critic is by growing our inner champion, if you like. That we develop this parental part of us that really cheers us on and is on our team, that is in partnership with us, that gets us to hear messages that we didn't hear before, and to support us and to encourage us and to take us seriously and validate us and love us and support us and champion us. I think that's the path most of us are on. It's the path I'm on. I think, you know, to put it in a broader context, you know, I've never been in a formal recovery movement, but I think that's what recovery is all about. When we're recovering from any kind of addiction, whether that's a substance or a relationship addiction, really what we're doing is we're growing that inner parent, we're growing that inner champion that's really validating, positive, nurturing, supportive and permissive, if you like, and protective of us. Because one of the things that we often lacked when we were growing up, I think, is that protection. So, you know, when we have our inspiration, when we have our creative ideas, that protection that says, you know, I will not shame you, I will encourage you, I will champion you. So I hope that's helpful. I'll be expanding on these themes. I know, in a way, I tried to distill today, and I know what I've distilled is also a massive idea. You know, the journey from inner critic to inner champion is a journey that I'm still on. I've been on that journey for 30 years, and I will be on that journey for the next however many years I've got, if it's another 30 years. I think it's the journey we're all on, you know, from self-judgment to self-love, from self-crucifixion to self-championing. My experience is we're all on that path. Some of us are doing it consciously, others of us are still caught in the self-judgment and don't even realise there's another option. So I hope that's helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please give me feedback. I'd love to hear what you think and feel about what I've just shared with you. So I'll be covering, you know, more in the days to come about, well, how do we build this inner champion, and how do we support ourselves. So wish you a great rest of your day. God bless, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.